Hi, this is Rock. Well, we've waited a lot of videos for this, and now it's finally here. I get to talk about conditional formatting, one of my favorite features in Excel. And to do that, I'm going to dig up some of the old sheets we used from previous videos, such as product, mod, count. You'll recognize some of these. So, what is conditional formatting? Conditional formatting is a format that you set, usually a color or something like an outline of the cell, one of those types of formats that is based on the contents of the cell. So as the contents of the cell change, so might the color, for example. And bringing up this product one back from when we looked at the product function, these cells that are blue were blue because they were perfect squares. And I think when I created this video, I just went in and made these cells that color. If I look at the fill of this, yes, I just went in and selected that. So I'm going to go in here and take out that by selecting all of those, going back to the fill, and I'm just going to say no color and say OK, so it takes off that color for those. So what we're going to do at some point here soon is configure that color for these because they are this perfect square or the square of these two numbers. We can do that, but in a little bit. Let's start with some easier things. I'm going to go to this mod thing, for example. If I grab this and I click down on the conditional format icon drop-down arrow, we have a few different things. Highlight cells rule. We could say if it's greater than, or if it's less than, or if it's between, or if it's equal to, etc. So let's try a greater than. And let's say anything that's greater than 15. And there we go. I'm going to undo that and let's do another one. As an example, let's say less than, and we'll say less than 20. And there we go. I'm going to undo that and do one here that is between. Let's say between 15 and 20. And instead of light red fill with dark red text, I'm going to choose a red border. So you've got some presets there. I don't usually use the presets, but they're certainly there and available for you. One thing to remember is that as you apply these things, they are cumulative. These rules for conditional formatting are cumulative. And so I've already done something for if it's between 15 and 20. If I came in here and wanted to do something that is between 16 and 19 and have it do something like yellow fill with dark yellow text, notice that it's doing both of those. It's doing the one that I set between 15 and 20 with the red outline, and it's doing the 16 to 19 with yellow fill and dark yellow text. So how do you manage those ones that have already been set? Once you have the right cells selected, you can click on the drop down, manage rules, and you'll see both of these in here. You can select to edit either one of these or delete one, or you can also, if they conflict, they're going to be applied in the order that you see top to bottom. So if you want this one to get applied first, you would need to move that one up to have it get applied first. Application order is especially important if there's some kind of conflict. Like, for example, if I went in here and I created one that was between 17 and 18 and that it had green fill, and I say OK on that, which one applies, the green or the yellow? Well, it depends on the order that you have them in this manage rules list. So if we want the yellow one to apply, then we can move that up above the green and click apply, and that yellow one will apply as a priority over the green one. So the order of these and their application is very important. It's also important to see which ones these apply to. So when you set your conditional formatting, what I typically do is select the ones I want to apply it to, and then I create the rule. But you can also just select one, create a rule, let's say equal to 9, and I apply that, but then it's not making the 9 highlight here, but I can go in here and manage my rules and say applies to, and later come in here and change what it applies to. So I can select all that and say apply, and all the ones to which that applies will be affected. I'm going to undo that and just show you another way to do that, which is to use the Format Painter, because Format Painter applies to conditional formatting as well. And now if I went in here and checked the Manage Rules, this is showing as applying to C7 through AX7. We are so just scratching the surface on all you can do with conditional formatting. Let's go look at the sum ifs where we did some expenses. If I want to give a visual for how much these expenses were to help me visually see which were the most, I can do a data fill and a data bar here with a gradient fill, for example. This kind of thing can very quickly give you a way to visually point the eye to the ones that were the highest expenses. I'm going to undo that. Another thing here with the color scales gives you a way to use color to do the same thing. You can see pretty easily that the red ones are the highest and the green are the lowest cost, and there's a gradation between the colors. I often use these color scales as a quick visual aid. Think about your audience and what will work for them. Use color judiciously. You don't want to introduce too much color that you have to explain what the color is. You want colors to be able to explain themselves. Usually when you're using like a red, yellow, green, it'll indicate, as a traffic light does, that something is an issue if it's red. Something might become an issue if it's yellow, or if it's green, it's not an issue. And you can do that also using icons, for example. But if you do that, like with this one, make sure that your rule is set for what you want it to be. So I'm going to click reverse icon order so that the green is on things that are lower cost to correspond to my colors. I would not typically use both a color range and an icon because it's a little bit overkill. But in this situation where I'm just showing you what they are, I think in this situation I would take off the color scale, delete the rule. I'm going to delete that rule and just click apply, and there we go. So this gives you a fast way to draw the eye towards the highest levels. Here in the one we used for aggregate, where we have an hourly rate, if I come in here, I can create a new rule. When I do this, it brings up this dialog box that allows me to do all kinds of things. You can base it on their values, format only cells that contain cell value between this and that. Maybe there's a rule that you want that says, hey, I'm trying to find anytime we have a rate that's over 175 an hour. So if you say greater than 175, what do you want it to do? Here it brings up your ability to format by number, format font, format border, format fill. Let's say we want to make it this color if it is over the 175 rate, and maybe we'll make the font bold. So I'm going to say OK. Actually, let's go ahead and put a border around it as well. I'm going to say OK, and these are the ones that have a rate that's over 175. If you do this kind of thing, unless it's a repeated report that everybody knows what you're doing, you might put in some kind of key for this, like I'm going to grab this color and I'm going to make it bold, and I'm going to say greater than 175. And maybe I'll put like an asterisk here and say rate greater than 175. And just having that down at the bottom or wherever you want to put it as part of your report will indicate what that color rule is. And now if we go in and we change some of this, like we're going to fix some of this, we can say, okay, instead of paying 180 for this, we're going to make this rate 174. And then it automatically changes the format of that. Or if this guy happens to bump up $1 and it's 176, he comes onto the list without us having to change that format. That is what your conditional format is getting for you, that as things change, they will automatically change in the formatting. So handy. We looked at formatting a cell that contains something that's greater than 175. We can format only the top or bottom ranked values. We can format only values that are above or below average. Format only unique or duplicate values. But let's take a look at something like we want it to be 173 hours a month, and if it's not, let us know. So we could come in here and say new rule for cells that are not equal to 173. I'm going to make that font bold. So we apply that and now we can see. Keep in mind when you are choosing your colors to have them be in a similar kind of spectrum. One of the things that Excel does for you when you format, your organization may have theme colors, or Excel organizes these colors for you to help guide what colors go together well. So you would not want to have mismatches of one color being dark like this and the other one being light. You kind of want to group things at the same level on a single chart. That's one of the benefits that Excel will give you. Let's make a new rule here with these total costs using a formula to determine which cells to format. This is the most useful, and this is the one that I use absolutely more than 90% of the time. I'll be looking at some kind of formula that I'm going to write in here to say what I want. So let's say I want this to be of the average of whatever I have filtered. So I'm going to say K7, but I'm going to take off the automatically generated absolute reference because I want it to just be a relative reference right now, because what I want to do is be able to apply this same format all the way down the list. So I don't want it to be an absolute reference. So I'm going to say K7 is greater than the, and I'm going to do aggregate. And with aggregate, the first one is an average. And I'm going to say 5 because I want it to ignore hidden rows. And then I'm going to grab this whole column. One of the beauties of conditional formatting is that you can have the cells themselves affect the formatting without it being a circular reference. So what are we going to make the above average ones look like? I'm going to make the fill. I'm going to say, okay, let's do a border. And we'll make the font bold. So this is for if it's above average. I'm going to say okay. And now this is not above average, so it is not showing up with that format. But if I do a format painter and paint all these, we'll see which ones are above average. All right, now because I use the aggregate formula, it will change if I apply a filter. So these are the above average for the full list. And so what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to mark with an X the ones that you see as above average. Watch how what we have as above average will change when I filter for testers. So now these 3 are above average, whereas only one of the testers was above average before. So you see how this conditional formatting with the aggregate is changing based on what rows are selected through the filter. So that's a handy little trick to have your conditional formatting keep up to date with and be applied to your visible set of data. Let's go back to our product one, and let's create a formula that replicates the blue that we had if the value is the square of the column header and the row header. So let's see. I'm going to say, if this is true, it's going to be $6 equals H7. But I want to make sure to take off the absolute reference here to this column and the absolute reference from this row, so that as I paste this down, it can give me the blue color based on when these two match. So I'm going to do bold there, I'm going to give it a border, and I'm going to make that fill something like that. Now, if I say OK on that, then I click here and I do the format paint and I drag that over. And so it automatically does that. If I change one of these by making the sequence start at a different number, like if it starts at 3, see how now it moved it down. If I have this sequence start at -2, there we go. So the conditional formatting is really an amazing thing. I highly recommend getting good at using it, and we're going to use it all the time in lots of other videos that I show you. It gives you a chance to be an artist with your data and to take advantage of the capabilities of visual display, telling a story with your data, adding a little bit of color to draw the eye to what story you want to tell. So that's conditional formatting. Next, we'll look at array formulas. See you there.